I really didn't know anything about Christo's work. My first encounter was, I believe, in a Sydney newspaper or an international publication that I saw in Sydney, and that was a work by Christo and Jean-Claude that they did for Documenta 5, and it was their first appearance at Documenta, and I found it interesting. I started to go to New York in the early 60s, and that was a very exciting time then. There were only about 3-4 contemporary galleries in the whole of New York. There was 1 or 2 in London, 1 in Germany, a couple in Italy. So contemporary art was really confined to very few collectors. Completely different to how it is now. And although I was familiar by then with a lot of the contemporary artists, painters, sculptors, I wasn't familiar with Christo. On my first day in New York, I walked into Leo Castelli's gallery, who was really the father of the pop art movement. In a small gallery uptown, he launched Rauschenberg, Lichtenstein, Andy Warhol, all the majors, Jasper Johns. They all started out their life at Leo Castelli. So I went to his gallery and said, I just came from Sydney, want to contact Christo, do you know how I can get hold of him? And said, well, we don't represent him, he deals directly with the public, but here is his phone number. Now again, something like that just wouldn't happen today. I rang Christo from a phone box. Jean-Claude, his French wife, answered, and she was very unfriendly. I said, I'm a young collector from Australia. I liked what I saw, and I very much like to come and see you. I'm in New York for a few days. So she reluctantly agreed. She said, come tomorrow, we got half an hour. Come to 48 Howard Street down in Soho, and we can chat. So I went to 48 Howard Street, and we really hit it off from the beginning. The half an hour lunch turned into all afternoon. About 1 o'clock, Jean-Claude said, well, we got some stale sandwiches left over from yesterday. That's all we can have for lunch. Do you want to share it with me? I bought a small wrapped package from them, and I asked them to come to Australia to give an exhibition and possibly a talk to see what's happening internationally. Christo protested, no. I don't want to lecture. My English is not good enough. I want you to find a coastline to rep. They were so charismatic that I went back to Sydney and set about finding a coastline to rep. So that was end of 68, beginning of 69. And in those days, I was employed. I didn't have a beard like I have now, but I had longish hair and a Hungarian accent, which remained the same. And I went into government offices, naval officers, because they're the ones who control the coastline. And I told them I want to borrow a piece of your coastline. And they said, what for, mate? And I said, well, we want to put in a temporary artwork. What kind of artwork? Well, we actually want to wrap it. I mean, they thought I was absolutely crazy. So they either laughed me out or just showed me the door. But being encouraged by Christo, I persevered. And after a few months of systematically going around the coastline, both north and south of Sydney, I came across Prince Henry Hospital. The head of the hospital, a Dr. Clancy, was quite an adventurous person, and said, you know what? The doctors, nurses, patients might find it amusing. We'll give you permission. So that was the big breakthrough. So when we got the good news, I sent them a telegram. We got permission. And then it really had to start. I mean, it would be impossible to do things like that today. We didn't get a DA, we didn't get any environmental studies. The only thing through a friend's friend, I got somebody to survey it because it was a big chunk of coastline. And he surveyed it and he said, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to develop it? Because that's what he usually does for developers. And I said, no, we're going to wrap it. And he said, well, once it's wrapped, how are you going to send it away? I mean, later on, when Christo was working on his big projects, it took years and years to get permission. And he worked with an army of engineers, of environmental experts. Like the Reichstag took 20 odd years from conception to finalizing. We took less than a year. But this was Christo and Jean-Claude's first major outdoor project. So we were all amateurs. Long distance, we went about choosing the fabric, choosing the ropes. We ended up using a polypropylene soil erosion type of fabric that was an open mesh that let the air and moisture through for any little plants or insects underneath. We had a budget, but of course it was going to be a lot more than the 20,000, I don't remember dollars or pounds, that the company allocated to it. Also, once it got out and the publicity started, Dunlop, a very conservative company, said we want nothing at all to do with this. This is not what we're known for, this is not our style. You either stop it or you do it under your own name. I was far too involved to drop it, so I said, I'll try and do it under my own name. When you're young, everything seems possible. I mean, we begged, bargained for the supplies, try and get it at reduced prices. I went from one university to another recruiting people to help, as most of the labor was voluntary. And we lined up all of it. Christo arrived, I think, in August of '69, and we started in September wrapping. With great enthusiasm and lots of publicity. On the one hand, there was a lot of ridicule. On the other, a real appreciation of this is something really different. A lot of the people came to watch the installation, and they just came to mock, but left convinced that it's something interesting. To me, the greatest strengths of Christo and Jean-Claude were their determination, their single-minded drive to get things done, an incredible charisma to take everybody along. In those days, what is now a beautiful golf course was a rubbish dump. And every afternoon, the council workers would come and dump the garbage. First morning, they were laughing at what we were doing. Then they started to chat to Christo and Jean-Claude. By the next day, in the spare time, the guys who carry rubbish were helping us together with their mates, because he just managed to make them feel the need to do that. And that was with young, with old, with students, with volunteers, with everyone. It went very smoothly, and we got about maybe 60% done when a big storm came and wrapped most of it away. Because in our rush, in our enthusiasm, we just laid out the fabric and didn't secure it as we were laying it. And we all thought, well, we have no more money, we can't go on. But again, Christo and Jean-Claude got us together in the morning after the storm and said, if you work with nature, that's what you have to expect. And we just went about repairing it and getting more fabric, getting better ways to secure it. When we finished, it looked absolutely beautiful, and thousands of people came to picnic, to watch, young, old. It was covered by the ABC and by an American film network. I believe it had a great impact, not only here in Australia, but internationally. People ask me nowadays, did I really enjoy, did I really appreciate the art of the wrapped coast? And my answer is, I had no time. When you worry about, have you got enough rope? Have you got enough pegs? What happened to the sandwiches for the 90-odd volunteers who are working? Why aren't they delivered? They were the things I was thinking of, not how beautiful that it looks. Sometimes early in the morning or the evening before we knocked off, I had a chance to wander around. But otherwise, it was just full on. Our relationship with Christo continued from 1969 till, unfortunately, the moment Jean-Claude and then Christo passed away last year. I think they made a great impact here and to the art world, and they certainly changed my life.